morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today we need to take a look at a very strange news story that's come from the lovely folks over at CGC. They are, of course, a grading company, and they've just graded a bunch of cards, including this Emolga and this Druddigan. Shout out to CGC, by the way. They did do an article where they shared images of these cards. I will link the article in the description. The information initially comes from them, but I think I can add a bunch of stuff and explain why this is such a big deal. Good. Now, the reason we need to start with the Emolga and the Druddigan is very simply because these cards don't exist. Okay, fine, that's a silly way to put it. These cards were never released, and they are mechanically unique. They obviously exist, they're there, but, go to pkmncards.com. It's the best place I've found to search for Pokemon stuff. And if I search for Druddigan, I find 12 different prints of Druddigan. None of them look like this. And Druddigan's actually really easy. There is exactly one colourless Druddigan we have ever seen in the Pokemon TCG. We have had colourless Druddigan exactly one time. And there were two different prints of it. One was in Noble Victories, the first ever Druddigan card. And then it was reprinted with different artwork in Legendary Treasures, although same basic card. And that had the ability Rough Skin and the attack Clutch. And this is blatantly a different card. So there's no, maybe it's a bit similar, Wassy. No, mate, it's definitely a different card. This one was super easy to find out it hadn't been released. The Emolga's a bit more annoying because, lightning type Emolga, 70 HP, nice and simple. But we can do a similar thing here. There is only one Emolga we have ever had that has a single attack for a lightning and a colourless energy. And that was the one from Next Destinies that did 30 base, not 20 base. Obviously, I've translated them myself. I'll share the translations with you in a second. My point is, these are definitely unreleased cards. There's no case of, or at least in English. There might be some obscure Japanese release that they had, but certainly in English, I've been on PKMN cards. It's really quite easy. You can have a look through. There is no ifs, buts, or maybes. They are definitely unreleased cards because there is no card which is even close enough to be confused for them. Good. Also, as a side note, Emolga has still never had more than 70 HP as a regular card. We've weirdly had a couple of 60 HP Emolga, but Emolga has never got above 70 HP, despite coming around in the black and white era with 70 HP. Little bit rude if you ask me, but I suppose you didn't. So we have these brand new Emolga and Druddigan cards, but there are some others as well. There is a Pokemon Catcher, which has the World Championship print on. And then we've got 4 energy cards, Grass, Water, Psychic, and Metal, all of which have the World Championship stamp on. So what's the deal? And the deal basically is these were printed and planned to be given out in tournaments over in Japan in 2011. And then there was earthquakes and tsunami that hit Japan in 2011. And as I think is probably fairly understandable, these events ended up being cancelled. And then when events restarted, there were new promo cards. So these just don't exist. Although again, saying it like that is slightly misleading. What I mean is they were never given out, they were never made available to players or collectors or any of that. They basically were printed and just sat there. Now, I can't speak for Pokemon. I'm not an employee of Pokemon or anything like that. But I do know business, and in this situation, generally one of two things happens. Either they all get destroyed, or they end up being given as presents to employees of the company, or sometimes a mixture of both. Cannot speak for Pokemon, but I'm saying just generally when these limited edition items are made and not given out for whatever reason, they're generally either destroyed or given to employees. Sometimes a few are given to employees and the rest are destroyed, for instance. I don't know how these get to CGC. And the article that CGC published doesn't say how they got to CGC. In the article, they say, these 7 promos never saw the light of day until they were submitted to CGC cards, And that's the most information we've got. I have no idea who had these cards, who gave them in. I don't know whether it is... I don't know. I don't even really want to guess. But they have been discovered and they have been sent for CGC for grading. And they all got a 10 except for Water Energy, which got a 9. Which actually, shout out to CGC for this. It would have been so easy to just give them all a 10. The fact they've given the Water Energy a 9 it makes me believe it a bit more. Or maybe that's why they did it. No, it's not. I've never used CGC myself, but I've had a lot of good reports from people that have. And the point is, these are cool, and they're unreleased, and they're weird. Why do they have the World Championship stamp on? They were from Worlds qualifiers. According to CGC, the Emolga, Druddigon, and Pokemon Catcher were for people who qualified for Worlds, whereas the energy cards were given out to the winners of side events during the qualifiers. So, that's where we are. And like I say, the Emolga and Druddigon are particularly interesting to me. Because these are new cards. These cards do not exist in English. They are, the phrase I like to use is mechanically unique. Now, I'd love to tell you they're good game-breaking cards that would have changed the game. That would be a lie. That's not true. The Emolga's got 70 HP, a retreat cost of 1, and for 2 energy, it does 20 damage to the active and 20 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Don't apply weakness and resistance to bench Pokemon. I've not checked these with anybody. This is it's one we see quite a lot. This isn't one I need to check with anybody nowadays. This is a pretty common phrasing that we see on cards. I am completely sure this is correct. And there is a world where this is really good, but it's not this one. We have had a bunch of Emolga printed with free retreat. The first ever Emolga that came around in Emerging Powers, that had free retreat. That was cool. The most recent Emolga that came around in Crown Zenith had free retreat. They haven't all had free retreat, but a bunch of them have. If this had free retreat, it would be way better. Similarly, if it was single energy, 20 to the active, 20 to the bench, that would also make a huge difference. And incidentally, that's essentially where I am. If this was free retreat, single energy, 20 to the active, 20 to the bench, I would really like this card, especially back in 2011. I mean, bearing in mind, we had Landorus EX for a while. Now, Landorus EX hit a really good weakness. It was a fighting type. And it also had a lot more bulk. It was a very big Pokemon that was not all that easy to KO. And it did 30 to the active, 30 to the bench. What I'm saying is Landorus was actually quite different in a lot of ways. However, Landorus was a great card because you could hit the active and the bench and start setting up multiple KOs. And like I say, Landorus was way better than this would have been, even with these changes. But I'm still saying that if it had free retreat and a single energy attack, it would be potentially a viable card. But again, if you're giving these cards out only to qualifiers of the tournament, who actually qualify for Worlds through the tournament, I mean, maybe we don't make these good. Maybe that's the point. As for the Druddigon, I've gone and translated that one myself as well. Again, I don't need a translation. It's pretty straightforward. And 2 energy, 20 damage, flip a coin. If heads, discard an energy from the defending Pokemon. And then 3 energy, 70. There is an argument here that with double colorless energy, which was around at this time, there is an argument that actually, you just attach that and start doing 20 and discarding energy. I'm not saying this is good. I want to be perfectly clear about this. But I am saying this is not the worst card I've ever seen. Now, I know there's a huge difference between good and the worst card I've ever seen, and it, fits somewhere in between that. But I'm saying there is at least a chance that being able to do some damage for a single energy attachment while doing a bit of energy hate could be kind of fun, and then attaching a third energy to do 70. I kind of see where we're going with this. This is super interesting to me. Pokemon Catcher, as a side note, I also have a really rare Pokemon Catcher. Like, a really rare Pokemon Catcher, which is worth, nothing. Okay, fine, not nothing, but it's really rare. It should be worth way more than it is. It was a League promo Pokemon Catcher. It's got the cross-hatch foil along with a League stamp on it, or a Play Pokemon stamp, which is a League stamp, to be fair. And these were given out only to the top 100 players in play points in one particular season. So basically, you had to be in the top 100 Masters, Seniors, or Juniors in that particular, the 1 year. The image here from Troll and Toad, I should say, as is the image here, showing it's only worth like $80. And yeah, so only like 600 of them were given out. 100 to each of 3 Ace divisions, but we each got 2, so... And I got this. This is a print of Pokemon Catcher where only 600 were ever made and distributed. That's really rare. That's really rare. Yeah, sorry. But yeah, there's Pokemon Catcher, which are worth way more than this. And that's actually really genuinely sad. I think it's because nobody really cares about this particular print, and these league promos are not that collectible, apparently. But like the gold secret rare from Dark Explorers, for instance, way more valuable, even though so many more were made. Like, to the point, if you search on pkmncards.com, you won't find an image of the league promo Pokemon Catcher. Literally not on there, and I've said that is the best database I found for Pokemon TCG cards, etc. Well, this is apparently, to get back to the actual point, this is a rarer version even than that. I don't know how much these cards are worth. It's such a weird thing. I don't know how many people care, but we are talking about some of the rarest cards ever that shouldn't exist, and nobody expected to be graded, and now all of a sudden they've popped up. This is weird. Just putting that out there. Right, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's what you need to know, and now it's over to you guys. Tell me what you think about these. Tell me how much you want these cards. Tell me if you would be picking these up if you were rich. Go nuts in the comment section, but be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and card games and Pokemon card games, all kinds of fun things. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. And get shout-outs on the channel like the lovely SWTV, who's been a supporter of ours for a while now and is a very lovely person. So shout out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing is always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.